welcome to my crochet channel. Today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make this donut messy bun hat. It's super easy to make. We start with the band for the donut, we make the frosting, then we add more donut up here, and we leave a hole for our ponytail or messy bun. Isn't that fun? Now this pattern does come in two sizes. It comes in a youth that fits about an 18 and also has a adult size that's about a 20-inch. We're going to be making the youth size today because I want to give it to my granddaughter who loves donuts. But I am going to show you how you can make this hat in any size and how to adjust the band so that it can be made in any size. And we'll get to that a little later on in the video. Now remember, this is a free crochet pattern on my blog, and you can find that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. What you're going to need to make a messy bun donut hat is you're going to need some brown worsted weight number 4 yarn, you're going to need some pink worsted weight number 4 yarn, and a variegated or whatever color of worsted weight yarn you want to use for your sprinkles. Now this pattern is stitched up using 2 strands of yarn for the donut color and the frosting color as well as the sprinkles. And I'm going to be making my hat with this beige, which is the same as this one. I've got pink, which is the same as this one. And then for the sprinkles, I'm going to be using this variegated in bright, which is the same as this hat. Now this hat is the adult size, and I'm going to be making the youth size, but I'm going to give you those stitch counts and things to make it in your size as well. So we're going to need worsted weight number 4 yarns, stitching with 2 strands of each for this project. The crochet hook that we're going to be using is a K hook. It's a 10.5, which is a 6.50 millimeter crochet hook. We need a nice thick hook because we are using the 2 strands. You're going to need a needle to weave in those ends, and you'll also need a pair of scissors for cutting those yarns. The amount of yarn that you're going to need for your hat will vary depending on which size that you'll be using. If you make the size that I made, you're going to need about 3 ounces of each color because we're using 2 strands of each one. And of course, if you make it bigger or smaller, you're going to need more yarn. Let's go ahead and get started, and I'm going to explain to you how to adjust the hat for any size. All right, let's get started. We're going to begin with our slip knot, and then I'm going to chain 5 chains. There's my 5 chains. I'm going to begin stitching in the second chain from the hook. Here's the first one, here's the second. So I'll put my hook in, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through both of those loops. That's a single crochet. And we'll place 1 single crochet in the next 3 chains. This is going to give us 4 single crochets because we did not stitch in the first chain. We skipped the first chain, started in the second chain from the hook, and we stitched 4 single crochets. We're going to chain 1 and turn. Now, no matter what size hat you're making, we're going to be doing the trim or the brim of the hat exactly the same. The only difference is the amount of rows that we will make. Now, for row 2, we're going to be stitching 1 single crochet in each single crochet, but we're going to be stitching in the back loops only. And if you look on the top of your stitches, you'll see that it looks like a braid. And the loops that are closest to you are your front loops, and the loops that are away from you are your back loops. And we're going to be stitching in the back loops. So we'll put our hook through just the back loop and stitch a single crochet. And we'll do this in each of the 4 single crochets across. Chain 1, does not count as a stitch, it's just a turning chain, and then we'll turn. Now, I'm going to be making the 18-inch size, and so I'm going to be doing 44 rows. If you're making the large size, you'll need to do 54 rows. And if you want to adjust it to smaller, 2 rows equal 1 inch. So if you want to make it for, say, a 14-inch baby head or child head, you'll need to stitch enough rows for 14 inches. All right, that's how you adjust it. So we're going to continue stitching in the back loops only. For 44 rows because I'm making the child or youth size. If you want to make the adult size, you'll need to stitch 54 rows in total. And be sure and count those 2 that we did at the beginning. So I'm going to continue stitching 1 single crochet in each single crochet across, chain 1 and turn. Chain 1 does not count as a stitch, and we'll repeat that for as many rows needed for the hat that you want to make. And just so you understand, what we're doing is we're making the bottom edge trim or brim of our hat. Once we get it the length that we want, we're going to join it together and then begin working up the donut. So just to repeat, chain 1, turn, 1 single crochet in the 4 single crochets, working in the back loops only. And we'll repeat this for as many rows needed to make the trim or brim or band of our hat. I stitched my 44 rows, single crochets, only stitching in the back loops, and you get this nice stretchy band. And it's a good idea to measure as you go to make sure that you made it the length that you need around the head of the person that you're making this for. All right, now when we get this far, don't tie off and don't put your chain 1. When you get to your last row, we're going to take the ends and we're going to put them together because we're going to form a ring for the hat band. So that ties out of the way there. We'll put the 2 ends together. We'll go right in that first single crochet and that first chain where we started, and we're going to just stitch 4 single crochets going through both thicknesses, the front and the back. And then chain 1. And you can see it blends in nicely for our hat. Now we do have an end that we do need to weave in, and what I do is I just pull that to the inside, and then we'll weave that in later when we finish our hat. All right, now it doesn't matter what size hat that you're making. We're going to be doing a lot of this the same. The only difference is if you added or subtracted, you'll have a different amount of stitches. So we're going to begin stitching a row of double crochet around the top of the hat band. And this is the only portion that can be a little bit confusing. We chained 1, let's chain 2 more because we're going to be stitching double crochets. And where you're going to place those double crochets is you'll notice that you have ridges and you have indentions. And the indention is, of course, the ridge on the back side. And what we'll do, my loop came off my hook, there we go. yarn over. We'll go right in the top of this first ridge or bump, get in there, and we'll stitch a double crochet. Our next stitch is going to be in the top of the indention. So we'll yarn over, go in that indention, and stitch a double crochet. This way we have the same amount of stitches as we do rows, plus this extra row that we added. And just in case you're not sure how to stitch a double crochet, you yarn over, go in, and pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. Now it looks like we have 6, but remember we're stitching with 2 strands of yarn. Yarn over and go through the first 2, yarn over and go through the second 2. So what we want to do on this row is stitch a double crochet in the indention and stitch a double crochet in the ridge or the bump all the way around our hat. Just take your time and pay attention where you're putting that stitch. There's the indention. Now I'm going to stitch in the top of the ridge, and it can be confusing because we're stitching in ridges and indentions, and we're stitching on the sides of the stitch, not the tops, because we're stitching on the sides where we stitched our first row. The rest of this hat is super easy. This isn't hard. You can do it. It's just getting used to knowing where to put your stitches. Alright, so let's keep going around our hat, stitching a double crochet in the indention and a double crochet in the top of the ridge. All the way around our hat. See how that looks? Looks really nice, doesn't it? Alright, I'm going to keep right on going around my hat, and when I get back around where I started, I'm going to join to the top of my chain 3 that I started with. One double crochet in the top of the ridge and 1 double crochet in the indention, making a nice chunky hat. So I stitched my row of double crochet all the way around. I'm going to join to the top of that chain 3 with a slip stitch. We just pull a loop through, then pull that loop through the loop on our hook. And then we're going to chain 3. In this next row, super easy, we're just going to stitch 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets that we just stitched. And I will say, if you're making this for a small child, you may want to skip this row because this is going to make the donut taller. And if you want to go ahead and add the frosting on this row, you can. Basically, you would just skip this row of 1 double crochet around with this color. Because if you want to make it just a little bit shorter for a younger child. Just a note, it's up to you, your ratio of donut to frosting that you want. I'm going to go ahead and add this row of double crochet all the way around, just stitching 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets around. Once I get this row done, I'll be back around. I'll join to the top of this chain 3, and then we'll change colors and add our pink. So like I said, if you're making one for a small child and you want to skip this row, you certainly can, and start with your pink frosting. Alright, so I'm almost around, about halfway. Going to finish this row and join in, and I'll show you how to add in your pink frosting. Alright, we finished this row. We're going to slip stitch, join and slip stitch, but we're not going to cut off our yarn. We don't need our scissors. We're going to let that trail up the inside of the hat, so we're just going to leave that there. We're going to go ahead and join in our 2 strands of pink yarn. We'll snug that down. There we go, and snug that down, and we'll chain 3. And then we'll do what we did on the previous row. We'll stitch 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets around. And the pink is acting as the frosting of our donut. And if you would prefer, say, chocolate frosting, that would look really cute too. Now, I do like the chocolate on the hat. I just didn't think you would be able to see it very well in a video. So we're just going to continue stitching 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets around using our pink or frosting color. And we've left our brown or beige donut color attached, and we'll just set that aside out of the way as we stitch around. And I like to trail it up the inside because it's just, a couple more places where we don't have to tie off and weave in ends. If you would like to cut that and it's in your way, you certainly can. Just remember, you're going to have to weave that in when we're all finished. Some people are more comfortable cutting it and tying it off, and some people don't mind tailing it up the inside of the hat. It's what you like and what is more comfortable for you. So I'm stitching 1 double crochet in each stitch around, and when I get back around, I'm going to join to the top of this chain 3 and chain 3. I stitched all the way around with my pink, 1 double crochet in each double crochet. I'm going to join to the top of my chain 3 with a slip stitch, and I'm going to chain 3. And this next row is just a repeat of what we just did. 1 double crochet in each double crochet around. Because this donut needs more frosting. Get some more yarn here. Alright, so we're just going to continue around again, just like we did on the previous row. 1 double crochet in each double crochet around. I've stitched that second row of double crochet around. I'm going to join to the top of the chain 3 with a slip stitch and chain 3. I'm going to stitch 1 double crochet in the next 2 double crochets. And then the next 2 stitches, I'm going to stitch them together. This is called a double crochet decrease. So we're going to yarn over, go in the first double crochet and pull up a loop. Then we're going to go in the next double crochet and pull up a loop. Yarn over, go through the first 3, yarn over and go through those last 2. And what we've done is we've taken 2 double crochets and made it into one. That's called stitching 2 double crochets together, or a double crochet decrease. And what we're going to do is we're going to repeat stitch 1 double crochet in the next 2 double crochets, and then we're going to stitch a double crochet decrease in the next 2 double crochets. So again, we stitched 2 double crochets together, which made us decrease by 1 double crochet. So this is the way this row will be stitched. 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches, and then a double crochet decrease in the next 2. Stitching those 2 together. And we'll repeat this all the way around the hat, and you'll see that this is going to make the hat start to go in at the top to form the top of the donut. One double crochet, another double crochet, and a double crochet decrease with the next 2 stitches, stitching all the way around, and then we'll join back to the top of this chain 3 when we get around. So I stitched all the way around, 2 double crochets, 1 in the next 2, and then double crochet decrease, repeating all the way around. We're going to join to the top of our chain 3, and then we're going to repeat what we did. Whoops. Got to be careful when you're using 2 strands not to lose one of them. There we go. Chain 3, and then we're going to repeat what we just did. 1 double crochet in the next 2 double crochets, and then we'll stitch a double crochet decrease with the next 2 stitches. One double crochet, 1 double crochet, and then a double crochet decrease. And we'll do this all the way around again. And then we'll change back to our donut color. So just to repeat, 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches, and then stitch a double crochet decrease in the next, or what we call stitching 2 double crochets together. They both mean the same thing. It's just a different way of saying it. There we go. All right, I'm going to finish this all the way around, and then we'll change back to our donut color. You can see that your hat is moving in, forming that donut shape. I've stitched all the way around, 1 double crochet in the next 2, and then 2 double crochets together. I'm going to join to the top of my chain 3 with the slip stitch. And now we can cut off our pink yarn, but leave yourself enough so you can weave in that end. And we're going to join back in this beige yarn. We'll put that on the inside, and we'll join back in this beige yarn that we left attached. And if you cut yours, that's okay. You can still add it back in. We'll chain 3, And on this row, we're just going to stitch 1 double crochet in each double crochet around. It's already looking like a yummy donut, huh? Let's get that yarn out of the way there. All right, 1 double crochet in each double crochet around. One double crochet in each double crochet around. Join to the top of our chain 3 and chain 3. Now we're going to be repeating what we did on these 2 pink rows. We're going to stitch 1 double crochet in the next 2, and then stitch the next 2 together like we did on those 2 rows. And we'll repeat this all the way around this row. 1 double crochet in the next 2, and then stitch the next 2 together. 1 double crochet in the next 2, and stitch the next 2 together. We stitched all around, stitching 1 double crochet in the next 2 and stitching the next 2 together. Now we're going to join to the top of our chain 3, and we're only going to chain 1. And we're just going to stitch a single crochet all the way around just to give it a nice tight finish, so that when we pop our ponytail through, it holds nicely. So just 1 single crochet in each of the double crochets around. And then we'll be done with the hat portion, and time to add some sprinkles. Alrighty, almost back around. There we go. One more. Then we'll join to that first single crochet. Don't join to the chain 1, join to the single crochet with a slip stitch. We'll cut our yarn, put our hook through the next stitch, and pull that loop to the back and tie off. There we go, and we'll weave that in later. And this is what the youth size messy bun looks like. Here is the adult size, of course. It's bigger. The hole is bigger. And if you want this hole to be smaller, you can do another row of the double crochet with the 2 double crochet together, and then stitch the 2 double crochets, 1 double crochet in the next 2, and then the 2 double crochets together for another row if you want your messy bun hat to be smaller at the top for the hole. I have a lot of hair, so I like mine to be pretty good sized. So here is the youth size messy bun hat, and now it needs some sprinkles. To add your sprinkles, you can use any colors of worsted weight number 4 yarn that you want, and I am using 2 strands, and I'm using this bright variegated. It looks like this. It's a Red Heart Super Saver, and of course all these yarns that we're using today are. And the way you do the sprinkles, or what I do, is I come up from the bottom and I leave that tail of yarn under there. That way I can weave that in later. And I just make some slanted stitches, and I sort of I don't make them perfect. I make them every other direction and stuff like that. I did find that if you go through the holes of the stitches, it seems to lay better than if you go through the fibers of the yarn for the sprinkles. But you can make them go any way you want, and I just sort of work my way around the hat. And I like to use the variegated yarn because you get lots of bright colors. But you can use, if you want to, say you did your donut portion in chocolate, you could use white sprinkles. See there, I got caught in the fiber. Got to be careful of that. There we go. Make your sprinkles go any way you want. And like I said, for this particular thing, the sprinkles work best going through the holes of the stitches. And you just keep working around until you get as many sprinkles as you want. There we go. And since I made this one for my granddaughter, I think she's going to want a lot of sprinkles, so I'm going to add a bunch. And when you finish and you want to tie off, because you're probably going to have to thread your needle a couple of times to get enough sprinkles on your hat, you're going to have to weave your yarn in, and you need to be careful. I'm trying to get a bunch done here so I can show you. When you weave your yarn in on the back, you want to make sure that you don't go through the front, and you just go through the back of some of the stitches so that it stays put. And at this point you might want to go through some of those fibers so you can keep your stitches in place. And then you would just cut that off and then make more sprinkles. See, there's halfway done, so I need to add a lot more sprinkles. So I'm going to get another piece of yarn and continue adding sprinkles to the back side of my donut hat. And that's how easy it is to make this fun donut messy bun hat.